Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and John here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today, we've got another top 5 video, except we may not be going down the wheelhouse that you probably are expecting. We're going to be talking about cutlery today, but we're going to be talking about the top 5 most utilitarian knives, right? If you could only have 5 knives that had to fulfill a wide variety of different functions, both in the woods, out on the lake, okay, or for just general bushcraft and survival, what would those knives be and why? And I wanted to really get these knives together to show you guys, because some of these are knife designs that I've used extensively over the years, some that I've trusted in the field and I really, really love them. Some are some new knives that we're going to check out that maybe you've never seen before. So we're going to dive into this. Now, John is a really, really important character here at Iraq Veteran. Now, you don't see him on the videos very often, but he handles a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. He helps Brandy and Chad and I out extensively with a lot of different things. He's also a resident knife guru. He loves knives. He is definitely a cutlery connoisseur, okay? And what we wanted to have is John's opinion on some of this cutlery here, and he's going to sort of interject some opinions along with me. And we're going to talk a little bit about this and sort of dive into this whole thing. Also, when we do our man cans and stuff, and when we have our custom knives we're putting together, a lot of times John's input goes really, really greatly into the overall knife design. Like if we're trying to narrow it down from like 4 or 5 knives, John's input goes a long way into determining what knives we put in man cans and everything. So he's a huge element to the channel. We don't do a lot with cutlery, but we really do enjoy our knives, and I want to have John in today's video so we can talk about some cutlery here. So one of the reasons I want to make this video, one is because I went over on Big Daddy, and they happen to have like a lot of great deals on some of the common field knives that I use a lot of, and I wanted to show some of those off. One, because they represent great value, and because the prices are just absolutely stupid cheap in some cases, but two, because I feel like some of these knives might be overlooked by some of you. So when we talk about, you know, utilitarian knives, what are we looking for in a utilitarian knife?
In my opinion, it's something that can do maybe not one thing specifically well, but you can cover a wide variety of issues with that one knife, and it kind of does everything pretty good or well, and just maybe not one certain thing great.
Yeah. I think a lot of that comes down to like a certain blade type, like a certain blade shape, maybe the thickness of the spline of the blade, the handles. You know, we have a wide variety of different sheaths that we're going to show here. So let's get into the first one. All right, so number 1, all right, what's our first utilitarian knife? The Havalon Piranta Edge. Okay, this is a really cool knife because it is sort of like a pocket scalpel, and these are generally used for skinning. All right, and I have dressed out a ton of deer with the Havalon skinner. These things are great. So it is a folder with a lock back. And the construction, relatively simple, right? You know, it's just plastic construction. But one of the most interesting facts about this particular knife is the interchangeable blade compatibility. And it comes with a whole bunch of extra blades that are sealed in this packaging. So the whole idea is if you foul this blade out, cutting a bunch of ligaments or tendons or trying to rub up against a bone, and you wind up fouling this blade out, instead of trying to sharpen it, you simply just replace it in the field. You get instant gratification. Or let's say if you need a clean blade and you're worried about contamination, you can simply swap out for a new blade. All right, now I don't know how superstitious you are, but I'm going to close this before I hand it to you.
And see, I haven't skinned too many deer with something like this, but I've personally used knives like this myself with getting splinters in the field and in the woods. And it'll break off, and then you've got a piece of wood stuck that you can't pull out with your pliers. And something like this that's got a real fine cutting edge like a scalpel, you can put in one of the new blades, and then you can essentially do self-surgery in the field, bandage it up, and then you're good to go.
There you go.
You don't have to worry about contamination from whatever else you had on the blade before.
Excellent. And then also you can get different blade profiles too. So this is the 60A blade, which is their most common blade type in terms of the profile of this blade. But I do believe, hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, believe you can get serrated blades in different shapes and different thicknesses. This is just their standard, pretty much one of their standard Havalons is this particular model. And I like the Hunter Orange because when I'm out in the field, let's face it, you drop stuff, and I like the orange model because it's just a little bit easier to keep up with. Now, be careful with these suckers. They are sharp as crap. they will cut the ever-loving mess out of you if you let them. Okay, so just be very mindful. These are very sharp knives, okay? And it comes with a little pouch, all right? And then this tool here is for removing the blade and changing them. So you want to try to keep up with this little tool. But a very, very functional blade. These are like 45 bucks on Big Daddy. I thought, man, I think the last one that I bought was way above that. It was like 60 or 70 bucks. So it's definitely an investment grade tool, something you want to try to keep up with, but a great utilitarian knife. Great for skinning, great for dressing out squirrels, rabbits, small game, but all the way up to a big deer. I mean, I've dressed out entire deer with these things. Like that blade is so sharp, you can cut the back straps right out of a deer, no problem. They are fantastic skinning knives. They cut through the hide, especially when you're worried about, you don't want to break through that gut cavity. You're trying to be real careful about, not, gutting a deer in the way that, gets bile in the meat. It's a good precision knife. It can make some fine cutting action there. One of my favorites. I love the Havalon products. All right, another knife that I go back to a lot, and we do have some wild cards, but we're going to get to this one. This is what they call the Mora Garberg, okay? Now, it comes in carbon and stainless steel. This particular version is the stainless steel version. This is a full tang Mora. And one of the things I like about the Swedish Moras is that they represent an outstanding value in a bushcraft/survival knife. This particular knife has an extremely thick spline, which is great for striking flint, but also you can, put the brakes on this thing, hit it, and it comes in about 3 or 4 different sheath options. This one has a leather sheath, but you can get a, Kydex and different versions, a nylon sheath. And this is one of Mora's, I believe, most successful full tang knives. What do you think about that?
With the Mora knives, especially like the bushcraft, it's got pretty much everything you need for general, bushcrafting, camping, around the campsite, processing small bits of wood. Now, you're not going to fell big trees with it, but anything you need around camp, processing food, all that type of stuff works really well. And like a lot of these other knives here, I really like that there's no sharp edges on the back. You can hammer it. You can use it as a hammer if you need to for tent stakes or any other type of, if you're putting a shelter together, hammering sticks into the ground for your shelter. It just makes it a lot easier. Or striking flint or anything like that you need to. That back edge is real good there.
It seems like it's got everything that you need and nothing you don't. And one thing that I like about Mora in terms of their cutlery is that their cutlery is accessible. Like they have models that are non-full tang model that are still great for a wide variety of different applications but don't have the higher price tag. Now, just to give you an idea, I think this thing was like 80 bucks on Big Daddy. And this represents one of their most expensive knives. So if that tells you anything about Mora, they're high quality knives, but they're accessible, okay? This is a stainless steel model. They also do the black carbon. Carbon steel is going to hold a great edge. It's also going to corrode if you're not careful, so just be mindful of that. I dressed out an entire deer about 2 months ago with my Mora Basic. The little one I've got upstairs, the little orange handle Mora, and it's got a little 4-inch blade on it. Okay, so this was a more substantial knife. I feel like the Moras are a great utilitarian knife that belong in a wide variety of different applications. I keep several stainless steel Moras on my boat. They're great for cutting up bait. They get through bone just fine. I mean, they are just fantastic knives for the money, and I believe they represent a great value for somebody that wants a fantastic field knife. A good working man's knife is what I feel like that Mora is, okay? I felt like that was important. All right, so the next knife that we're going to check out here is a fillet knife. Now, I love to fish, okay? And this guy knows it.
Yep.
I am a fisherman, and I love fillet knives because I love cleaning fish. I love catching them. I love cooking them. I love eating them. I'm all about the fish, right? And if I want a knife that can power through redfish scales, redfish bones, all the way down to, filleting a flounder or a trout, the Bubba blade is definitely one of my go-tos. Now, this particular version just has a standard nylon sheath. You can get the upgraded sheath for this thing, but it comes with a nylon sheath. Very, very flexible. The whole thing about a fillet knife is that you want that flexibility in the blade to be able to keep to the contours of the bones and to really get the most meat off the fish that you possibly can. Definitely like nice non-slip surface, lots of nice ergonomics to the way this thing feels. It is a full tang. I believe this is a rat tang blade, so it's not like a full-on tang, but like a rat tail tang, which is fine. And this thing's light enough, the way this thing's designed, if it falls overboard, it'll float. All right, and you've got, of course, a spot here you can put a lanyard on it, but that's a great knife. Okay, and while you check this out, John, there was a couple of features I wanted to mention on this that I forgot to mention. And I do have some cheat sheets here, guys, just to make sure I'm right. Yeah, titanium nitride coating. That's important. And it says full tang construction, high carbon stainless steel. So that should really resist corrosion considerably well. And I do keep these on my boat, and I do fish in saltwater. So it's a big part of that.
Yeah, so you use fillet blades a lot more than I do. But I really like how they've got these ergonomic points for your fingers. Because like you said, with that flexibility, you can really control the blade with those divots they've got in there.
Yep. I think another important aspect too is if you're wearing gloves. You know, that's the big thing. Yeah, the handle's nice and big, so that if you are wearing gloves, I mean, some of us fish in cold areas, and you're trying to fillet fish and your fingers are numb. That gives you a much more tactile feel. Not to mention, I'd say even a degree of safety, right? So your finger doesn't slip and you accidentally cut yourself. I've cut myself filleting fish a ton. It happens, right? It's especially you get on a roll, you got a nice sharp knife, and you're just on a roll filleting fish. You know, just doing your thing. I feel like, it's such a cool feeling just getting a roll filleting fish. And you get going fast, and sometimes, it's, I've slipped and cut myself before. So it's nice to have a very good ergonomic handle to hold on to, and that's what drew me to the Bubba blades. And again, like on Big Daddy's thing was like $40. That's
not bad at all.
Yeah, good deal on that, okay? Wanted to show that off because it's definitely one of my favorite fillet knives. I do like the Hellies. And I've got several fillet knives from many, many different manufacturers, but I always go back to the Bubba blade, especially for when I'm out on the boat fishing. Okay, we're going to get into, all right, let's talk about this. So why are we going to talk about a Swiss Army knife?
Well, most people, especially a lot of the, not elderly, but probably mid-30s, mid-40s guys, everybody grew up with one in their pocket. I mean, even me. I grew up with one in my pocket everywhere because it's just a nice utility knife. You can use it for opening boxes. Y'all used them to make lots of cut shells. Pretty much anything you need, and you don't need to carry a big knife,
Right.
And it's got all the other little things on there that you may need. I've used the scissors to trim fingernails, open bottles, just about anything you need. Yeah,
you got a flat edge on there, a couple of different bottle openers. And Swiss Army knives can really go down the rabbit hole in terms of utilitarian function. But the main reason that I wanted this Fisherman's Companion to be in this particular video, this one's sort of a quasi-wild card, but in a way not. But this is a knife that I believe is synonymous with Barry. And he always liked to carry a Swiss Army knife religiously in his pocket. This is a 1972 Fisherman's Companion. And I picked this particular, now this wasn't Barry's knife, but I did pick this particular one up at a state, okay, and I paid $5 for it. $5.
Can't beat that value.
For a 1972 Fisherman's Companion in really, really nice shape. So don't be afraid to look for like a nice old Swiss-made, Swiss Army knife. These things are fantastic knives and very utilitarian for paring uses, cutting up fruit. Sometimes you just sit around the camp, you want to whittle on some wood or something. They're just great. And you never know. You need a flat edge or Phillips. They do have a wide variety of different functionality. I like the one that has a bottle opener on it. This one has a Phillips screwdriver on it. But this one is the Fisherman's Companion. Of course, we see it has a salmon on there. Really cool. Okay. This is the last one in the top 5 lineup, and then we're going to show you a couple of other cool knives as well. This is my old LT Wright Scandi. All right, this one was a Going Gear exclusive, and I purchased this one from Marshall. Back when I was going to Going Gear a little bit more often. This is a special knife to me, not only because I bought it from Marshall, and Marshall unfortunately is no longer with us, and we miss him and everything, but it was a Going Gear exclusive, and it's got, I'm pretty sure that's Going Gear's thing, is the little flame logo and everything. And it's got a custom-made Kydex sheath and everything, and you've got a flint holder, which I don't have my flint in there right now, but I beat the ever-loving mess out of this knife. It's got a lot of wear on it, but in my opinion, this is one of the best general-purpose survival knives and bushcraft knives you can get right there.
Yeah, I have to agree with that statement.
Yeah.
And, you know, LT Wright makes a lot of great knives, but they are a little on the pricey side. So, like with the Mora we had out earlier, it's kind of like the same principle, just at a lower price point.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't go wrong with the LT Wright. Feels good in the hand. You can use it, like I said, you've beat this one. You've beat it to hell and back, essentially, and it holds a great edge.
Yeah.
You don't have any corrosion, really.
Not really. I mean, a little bit.
Just a little bit of light oil here and there, and it'll stay just fine forever.
Yep.
You know.
And a couple of specs on that particular knife, and I had to print out some sheets, guys, because I'm not like completely the knife guru. It's a 9-inch overall length, high polish Scandi ground to 0%, and then hard micro buffed edge. The handles are made out of micarta, and then it's got thumb scallops and a sharpened spline, so you can strike flint and things like that with it. A great setup. Definitely one of my favorite knives, but again, this particular one, a little bit on the expensive side. This is not a cheap knife. You know, you get what you pay for. I do need to replace some of the hardware on this sheath. You can see it's kind of, the leather backer is coming off of the Kydex portion. I just need to get a couple of these little screws and put that back where it belongs and replace that. But I've rode this one hard, man. I've had this one like 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's been holding it really nice. Love it. If I go camping or out doing my thing, and I've dressed out a bunch of deer with this sucker too, and it's been great. You know, I've cut up a deer with just about everything on this table. I've used the Avalon, I've used the Mora, I've cut up my share of fish with the Bubba blade. I've used the LT Wright for a lot of things. Okay, this is a knife that I saw this one recently, and I wanted to pick one up. I keep one of these on my boat, just because it is such a useful type of piece of cutlery, and because it supports Zach Brown, has his company Southern Grind. This is a really cool utilitarian knife, and probably one of his best sellers, I believe, is one they call the Granddaddy. Check that out, see what you think.
I believe the Granddaddy was pretty much their flagship knife when the company started, I believe. I may be wrong, but I believe. This is more of the stuff that I'm used to using, is bigger knives for camping and processing wood and stuff like that. And they feel really well, and they chop really well. I haven't used this exact one, but I've got a buddy that has one, and we've used it a lot in his backyard, clearing brush, clearing limbs, and it holds up great. The edge holds up real great, and if you do nick it, you know, you run it on a steel, you're right back to, you know, perfect edge. This one you've had on the boat, in humidity, and no corrosion, you know. Yeah,
it's been out in the salt water. It doesn't have a spot of corrosion on it.
Holds up real well, and it's got a nice balance to it. That heft in the front really helps with chopping into the bigger pieces of wood.
Oh, yeah. Or clearing brush. I mean, I got this particular knife to keep on the boat because you never know if you need to slice a piece of rope loose, if it's an emergency, or if, for whatever reason, sometimes if you catch a really big fish and you're having a hard time getting through a piece of bone, you're trying to, you know, butcher something out or dress it, give a good little whack with this thing and get through the bone if you have to. But also, too, sometimes if you want to, you know, shoal the boat over on the shore and go hang out for a while and hang out on the beach or something, sometimes it's nice to be able to just play around and chop stuff up. So
make a little campfire on the beach.
Yeah, make a fire. I mean, it's just useful. I believe that every boat or vehicle needs to have a good utilitarian knife like this in there, because you just never know what situation you might find yourself in where you need a utilitarian knife that can fill a wide variety of different functions. One area that I feel this one loses a few points is definitely is a thin spline.
Yeah,
you go to putting the brakes on this thing with a piece of lumber or something. I don't know. I'd be skeptical to see how well that would hold up.
I've never really batoned with one of those very much. You know, batoning the back of the blade, but it's a little thin, but it keeps the weight down and it helps with like when you're swinging and when you're cutting through like vines or like brush. That thin profile really helps cut through those small things. You get the wider blades, and lots of times they don't want to go smooth through vines and stuff like that.
And so that's a G2 steel, okay, that they made the blade out of. Of course, it's got fantastic edge on it. It's 11-inch blade, black G10 handles. Pretty standard fare. And I love the sheath. That was another thing I wanted to show off in this video, is the sheath design is very unique. Okay, kind of a skeletonized sheath, again, keeping the weight down. But also, you can kind of see what's going on. I don't know, it's interesting. It's different. And that's why I wanted it in this lineup. And Zach Brown's a cool guy, so I thought it'd be neat to show off one of his blades. All right, last but not least, this is kind of the wild card for this video. So I met this guy over at Kohls Custom Cutlery, and he sent over a few of his knives for us to check out. Now, I haven't had a chance to beat up on these, and it's funny, I actually just got these in yesterday, so I haven't really beat up on these too hard or used them a heck of a lot, but I wanted to show them because this guy is just putting forth some beautiful effort into these blades and everything like that. So I wanted to show these off a little bit. This is his Sportsman's Sidekick. And then the larger model is his Sportsman's Survival. All right, so that's the Survival. That's the big one. And then the slightly smaller one is the Sidekick, okay? He makes a lot of different pieces of cutlery in terms of the way these things are designed. I'll give you some basic info on the specs, okay? The blade steel is a 1095 high carbon. The Sidekick uses laminated wood with brass pins. The Survival uses layered G10 with mosaic skull pins and solid brass pins. You can certainly see that. That's kind of cool. So lots of subtle little things in the design. All of his knives are flint ready in terms of striking flint and starting fires. Okay, lots of good texturing. The way that he did these particular blades, you've got holes all through and throughout. So you can latch this thing over to a stick and make yourself a spear out of it if you need to kill a bear or a hog or something. Or if you want to wrap the handle itself in some 550 cord to give it a little bit different feel, you can wrap the handle, plenty of places to attach 550 cord. Really cool piece of cutlery, man. His Tech-Lock mounting system is a patented mounting system. You can change the angle of the sheath any way you want. It is a Kydex wrap on the sheath with 550 cord. Very, very cool looking sheath and very, very functional. What do you think about those?
I like the way he did it a lot, like with the sheath. You've already got your 550 cord, like you said, so it's ready to lash to whatever you need it to, or modify the handle if you don't like that thin grip. But they're real comfortable in the hand. Like I said, I can't wait till we get a chance to actually beat up on them and use them and test them. But the recurve blade comes in handy a lot on both of these. I've used kukris a lot, and that helps you really get into the beef of the blade up here when you're getting that cut. It kind of draws it into the fat part of the blade, so you're getting a continuous cut. Really helps with cutting everything from meaty substances to branches to vines. It really helps you get that good cut, or rope.
That's right.
Cutting rope's it can be a bear sometimes, and that recurve really helps. And he's got the reinforced tip up here, so you're keeping that full thickness of the blade until right there at the tip, so you got a real strong point.
And again, knives like this, and really any knife, is not intended as a prying device, but I would dare say that for a certain situation, you may be able to do it. Now, you can break the tip off any knife if you try hard enough, but this thing is certainly very robust construction. I love the full tang aspect. It's just a super strong knife. And I really love this guy's work, and I wanted to show off a couple of his knives in this video as a wild card. I can't attest to the longevity, but a few of these knives were designed in conjunction with a lot of military members. So a lot of input has come from a wide variety of different folks, and I think it's cool that he's making a go of it. So I wanted to show these off. There's certainly a lot of things that these knives are capable of that we'll hopefully explore in some future videos. But I just love the fact, the way he does the sheath on them, and his Tech-Lock mounting system's really handy. It's just really clever, well thought out. Really cool stuff. What you think?
Oh, I love it because they're useful. Like I said, I can't wait till we get to attest to the actual, ruggedness of the knives. But as far as they seem like they're going to be very utilitarian and useful, but they're also beautiful. Yep. It's not just artfully the standard, just, oh, that's a knife. It looks really good too. He's done a great job of making it almost a piece of art that's extremely useful too.
Functional art.
And he's got the back is flat, so you don't hurt yourself if you're actually having to hammer into the back of this thing to get it in somewhere. Because if you've got a glass breaker back there, yes, they're handy for if you're trying to get out of your car, but anything else, you're going to destroy the palm of your hand.
Yep.
And like with the others, you can use it for hammering in tent poles or anything else you need to do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could certainly strike that thing from just about any direction. You're not gonna harm this thing at all. Yeah, go check out Kohls Custom Cutlery. You know, we'll put a link in the description box. He's a great dude. Check out some of his cutlery. But guys, I want to definitely take a moment to thank you for watching today's video. We hope that you learned something. Maybe some of these pieces of cutlery that we're showing off are knives that you've never seen before. Maybe you didn't know this type of products existed. So I wanted to show sort of some of the knives that I've just used over the years and really enjoyed over the years. And these are knives that I've put a lot of stock into in terms of just heavy use over the years. And I wanted to show those off for you guys. And plus, there was just some fantastic deals over there on Big Daddy. So I thought I would show, you know, some of my favorite knives that I know they carry. There's certainly some great deals to be had over there. So thank you so much for watching today's video. We really hope you enjoyed it. Definitely want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters, all of you who purchase man cans, as well as t-shirts over on Ballistic Ink. Thank you so much for supporting what we do. And John, he's our cutlery guy. And I'll tell you what, so we talk about this torture testing and beating the crap out of things and cutting things. I'm going to put together like a knife, like obstacle course. Okay, and we're going to put together a series of cutting challenges. And then we're going to turn John loose with a wide variety of different cutlery and see how he fares in those challenges. So stay tuned for that. We're going to put that together. And we'll put some of these knives through their paces and see how they do, especially the Kohls. I think we are going to definitely beat up on a few of these and see how they hold up. So thank you guys so very much. Many more videos on the way, and we'll see you soon.